So I forgot. I walked last night after Watch Along Wednesday, which is available on the Movies Baby Patreon. I had a transcendent experience watching Wicked Stepmother, Bette Davis's final movie, directed by Larry Cohen. And I walked to AMC City Walk. I walked from the studio. And you forget that is like scaling Mount Everest.
You did the hill.
I did the hill.
Okay. Because I catch the bus, the little tram. But it was like, 9 p.m. So there was no tram.
There was no tram, and I was just turned up, and I was like, I'm going to do the hill. You forget.
And then you have to walk the entire length of City Walk.
You do.
Which is nothing compared to the hill, but still, like, you're far from the movies. You're farther than you think from the movies. Were you sweating when you got there?
I thought I wasn't sweating because it was cold. It was bad. It was worse than sweating. It was like not sweating when you're supposed to sweat. And I literally had a moment where I was like, this maybe is how it ends. Like right. I'm
for
those
you,
bodies that you pass on Everest that are frozen into the side of the mountain.
You should count your blessings if that's how it all ends up for you. That would be a light.
You're not
ending.
lying. You're not lying.
That would be good.
Yeah.
You should pray to your God for that.
This week on Movies Baby, what's up with John Cena, the past, present, and future of an unlikely A-lister? We're obsessed. We're going to talk more about him. Plus, we're reviewing Ricky Stanicky and Love Lies Bleeding, all that and so much more. Joe, are you ready?
Born ready, Brett.
Then roll that theme song. I can't get enough movies, baby. How about you? I think I messed it up. I'm sorry, Margo. Can we start from the top? Start it over. I'm so sorry,
if you
y'all.
mess it up in a live show, the show must
I know
go
what
on.
you do, but I don't even know where I was. Let's start it from the top, Margo. There it is. I needed that. Oh, now I'm home. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. How about you? Do you have it bad too? Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. Then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat and you don't want to mess with the Philly movie freak."
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Yes, it's true. Oh, I've got it bad too.
He's got it bad.
Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at every movie theater all over town. Cut to black. Roll credits. Whoa, baby. I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to. Hey, it's the Georgia Movie Dog. Oh, God.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
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 Yeah!
Welcome to Movies Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. Folks, my name is Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm here, as always, with the great and the powerful Georgia Movie Dog.
Go
Brett
Dogs!
Boehm. Brett Boehm's here.
Joe, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I know honesty is the trademark of
Our
Weekend
brand.
at
It's our brand,
Bergman's.
right,
So, but our whole brand.
Our entire brand.
And of course, Weekend at Bergman's comes on right after this show at 7 p.m. Pacific, only for Patreon subscribers on the live stream. And tonight we're doing Blair Witch versus the Mummy. We'll get to that later. But honesty it's becoming our entire brand. We're honest on Movies Baby as well. And so being honest, I got to tell you, I cannot stop thinking about this John Cena fella.
Wow.
I can't get him off my mind.
I don't think
This guy's interesting.
many people in this country haven't been able to get John Cena out of their mind, Brett, since he appeared on the scene in the early 2000s. But now, I mean,
I'm late to the game, but there was 3
Right.
things in particular, a triumvirate of events that has made John Cena just central in my brain. There was coming on stage at the Oscars naked. Right. Hollywood's biggest night. He goes all in. He does his naked gag and pulled it off. This is what we'll find out about John Cena. On paper, every movie he's been in, every gag he's done, I would say, I don't know if that's going to work. And then that guy gives it everything he's got, and he makes it work. Naked on stage at the Oscars. Yeah. That hilarious viral video where he referenced Behind the Green Door, the like high art porno movie, in what was otherwise a like Vanity Fair puff piece video, and everyone was kind of like shaking their head, like sort of confused because Cena went off script. And then he is starring in the biggest streaming release of the week, or the last 2 weeks, Ricky Stanicky, which we're going to talk about, which we both watched. So all of this is coming together, and I was like, Cena is happening. Yeah. We can't deny that Cena is happening. No. The guy is interesting, but what is he up to? What's the vision? What is happening with this guy? How does he fit into the history of Hollywood? What kind of role is he playing? What is the future of Cena? Because the ambition is high right now. So, Joe, what do you think the deal is with John Cena? Where do we start when we're figuring out this guy?
I think the first thing you have to know about Cena is something that is instantly communicated to you the second you're introduced to Cena in any capacity, which is the man, for all accounts, and I tried to ding him all week, this is an authentic guy. I'm afraid that this man, John Cena, is a version of as advertised. He has always been, honesty, respect, loyalty, or whatever his phrase was. Those are sort of the values that he's always embodied. And he's affable, whether he's playing the heel in a WWE fight, all the way 15 years later to Ricky Stanicky in a broad comedy, just giving 110%. He isn't embarrassed to be himself. I don't know why he would be. He's a fit gentleman. But he's always been abundantly not afraid to be himself, constantly doubling down on his charisma and his persona. And it has yielded in a massive movie career. I mean, and not just kind of like, okay, we're going to talk about a streaming release this week. That's not, we were also going to talk about how John Cena was in, the Fast and the Furious franchises, and he plays, he's in comedies, he's in romantic comedies.
Let's break down the filmography. I've been going through the filmography this week, because I was like, I've been aware of Cena for a while, obviously, he's a big star. But this week we really went through the whole filmography because we were trying to figure out, where does this guy kind of fit in the in this sort of history of Hollywood and current Hollywood? What does Hollywood seem to be trying to sort of put him in or make him into, or what is he trying to become? We're trying to sort of come to terms with Cena because there's a lot of different Cenas we've been getting over the years. And he starts out in 2006 with The Marine, which is a wild movie. Did you watch The Marine?
I did watch The Marine.
The Marine, to me, I didn't realize they remade The Room as a military movie with John Cena. This movie plays like The Room. It is low budget as all hell. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. From shot to shot, you have no idea what's going to happen. The Marine is wild. I would recommend watching it. I had a blast watching The Marine. Produced by WWE.
Can I speak on like kind of how WWE and John Cena got to this moment of making a movie?
Please
just
do.
Like really quickly.
Yeah.
So I won't do the whole history of John Cena and WWE because I'm not qualified to speak on it. But it speaks to the marketing and merchandising power of John Cena that WWE decided as instead of another T-shirt or instead of another belt to sell, now we're going to put John in movies and have him promote those on air during WWE, and that's how we are going to have this little WWE film imprint, which they did, and they made some films. But Cena is actually very interesting in the WWE lore. First of all, he's one of the greats. Nobody would deny it, and he's great because he combines different elements of sort of different characters in the past, from like your Undertaker, your Ric Flairs, your Hulk Hogan's, but he sort of blended them all up and was the right man for the job at WWE at the right time. He started as just like a handsome sort of boring guy, and then one time, right when Cena's contract was ending, they thought they were going to get rid of Cena, but one of the McMahons, Stephanie McMahon, was on a bus with the tour, and they were going to a show that week, and all the WWE guys were on the bus. And Cena started freestyle rapping. Cena's a massive hip-hop guy.
It's one of his things.
Massive hip-hop guy. Freestyle rapped. Everyone lost their mind.
His flow is I watched a lot of raps too. His flow is very much like I've seen 8 Mile 100 times. His flow is very Eminem. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, look at any picture of John Cena at this time.
Yeah.
2000 period. He looks silly / what your cousin looked like in the driveway. He's a huge hip hop guy. Anyway, he was rapping, and then Stephanie said, "Okay, can you rap about this tuna sandwich in my hand?" And Cena took off and rapped about that perfectly. And she said, "You're ready for prime time." He started doing that. He became his first sort of iteration, which was Dr. Thugatronic. Is that what that was?
I guess, yeah. Look, the Cena experience, what you're describing...
Doctor of Thugonomics.
What you're describing is the Cena experience. It's the experience that I had, that I think Hollywood is having, that everyone is having, which is the first thing you see is a big muscle guy. You see a big muscle guy.
That's the first thing he is.
With
a muscle guy.
With an almost like Buster Keaton level of like non-expressiveness. There is like the first experience is stone-faced muscle guy. The more you watch Cena, though, then you start to see, there's a little twinkle in his eye. There's like pathos here. There's some depth here. There's because look, Undertaker and Kane and a lot of the big tough guys in the WWE have tried to sort of move into movies, and they ultimately they don't have that second, third, fourth dimension. They are just big tough guys, or at least they can't sort of express more than that cinematically. Whereas Cena, like the more you watch him, the more he reveals hidden depths and hidden dimensions, and the more he reveals, pathos and an incredible like comic timing and all of these things. And it seems like that's what happened to him in his wrestling career. That's what happened to him in his movie career, because the Marine is clearly like Hollywood and the WWE don't know. They're just like, let's do a military thing where he's a tough military
He was
guy.
he had the hip hop affect, but he also at this time 2006, second term Bush was Mr. Military, and the Marine was part of that. And the Marine was at the tail end of WWE's ruthless aggression era. And really, the change you're talking about is perfectly sort of codified in the moment when the ruthless aggression era of WWE sort of ends after the Marine comes out a year later in 2007. That's when the single suicide, but double murder. Chris Benoit murdered his wife and daughter.
Oh, of course.
Sorry.
Sure.
Chris Benoit murdered his wife and daughter.
There's always
and
tragedy looming around the edges of
wrestling. And Vince McMahon said, no, we got to go. We're done with TV-14. It's time for PG. And Cena was the guy that carried that ball. How is WWE going to be PG and still be tough and cool and amazing or whatever? And Cena was the man for the mission. He because he embodies the traits that you were just talking about, Brett.
Well, and this explains, because you looked into his wrestling career, and this is excellent context. I was like looking at his movie career, and there's a big weird dry spell after the Marine all the way up to 2015, really like a decade dry spell in terms of his movies. Like
he's in the ring, brother.
That's why he's doing wrestling.
He's on TV.
Because the movies are so random. There is 12 Rounds, which is a Rennie Harlan late career like thing. There is Legendary, which is like a feel-good family movie. He was in Fred the movie, which was like one of those YouTube influencer movies.
All three of them, bro.
Yeah, which
played
was
Fred's dad.
They tried to do that. So he's like and that's all the way up to 2015. There's like a 10-year dry spell. Then like the big breakout was his role in Trainwreck. And everybody was like, John Cena A, wants to do comedy, and B, can he can hang. Like he can whatever you think of Trainwreck, he is on par with everybody else in that movie in terms of the comic beats and comic timing.
Easily.
Whatever you think about that movie. And this is now kind of the defining trait, I think, of John Cena now, is that he has been in like at best above average movies, mostly kind of average, below average movies, but in everything he is in, including the movie we're going to talk about tonight, Ricky Stanicky, he is, if not the best part of it, at the top of the movie. He's been stealing movies
all the 2015
comedies. Yes, for the last 10 years he's been stealing movies.
He steals that movie. He steals Sisters, with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, and then he's in a third comedy.
Blockers.
Oh, he's in Daddy's Home.
Blockers, Daddy's Home. Well, Daddy's Home, he was so good. He had a cameo in the first one, and then they gave him a larger role in the second one. So he is a guy who is clearly working hard, not just on camera, but behind the scenes. He is endearing himself to comedic filmmakers, and he is really rising the ranks in Hollywood. I mean, in addition to that, he's doing. He did 2 Fast and the Furiouses, which I know you watched. Maybe his biggest role so far has been the Suicide Squad, because then that led to the Peacemaker TV series, and that's kind of a dark comedy thing. And then now this past week, Ricky Stanicky. Also, the Barbie cameo was a big sign that he had made it. Like, the Barbie cameo was like, oh, we need an instantly recognizable guy for this mermaid character, and the fact that they picked him is really a sign that he is now he's a brand, he's a presence, not just in wrestling but in Hollywood.
In Hollywood, it's the same thing that happened at WWE. Everyone was like, I don't know if you're going to make it. I don't think that you have the stuff. Maybe we'll try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But Cena's enduring sort of lovability comes through time and time again. Audiences love him, and he is incredibly endearing. And I do respect his work ethic, because Brett, in 2015, when these comedies happen, it's not because he was sitting around on his butt. He was the biggest wrestler in the world, and he got hurt in a huge fight. And what's he do? First of all, he trains and gets back into the ring ASAP, but he also bangs out 3 comedies just to have that ready to rock and roll in 2015.
The guy absolutely has chops. And in terms of finding one of my big riddles that I was trying to solve this week was, what is the parallel or analog for Cena? Who is Cena? John Cena is this generation's blank. And I played around with a couple things, because it's tough, because he's still sort of trying out different things. It seems to me Ricky Stanicky is not this, maybe a little, but it seems to me action comedy is his lane he's trying to find. And he definitely has some Jackie Chan, but he's more Buster Keaton than Jackie Chan. He's a little more of a flatter affect. He has some Jim Carrey. Truly,
he has some Jim Carrey.
Truly has that might sound crazy, but go watch these John Cena movies. He's getting, in Ricky Stanicky, he's getting what would have been Jim Carrey roles 20 years ago. I think though the best parallel is he is Melissa McCarthy. He is that because there is no other actor I can think of that is getting truly big character meaty comedic roles, not comedy drama, not straight person in a comedy, not Jim Halpert looked to camera, oh boy, that's awkward, I looked away from camera. But he is the master of a dying art, as is Melissa McCarthy, which is big, broad comedic roles in big, broad comedies. Yeah. I can't think of anybody else who's doing it, but I feel as we'll talk about with Ricky Stanicky, I feel that is the lane he's finding, with sort of an action bent to it. But action comedy, Melissa McCarthy seems to be where John Cena's going. And honestly, I say keep going, John. I love it. I love what I'm seeing, and I hope you get better scripts sent your way.
As do I. Although Ricky Stanicky, do you know it was on the blacklist in 2000?
Shut up. Shut up.
The first draft of Ricky Stanicky was on the 2010 blacklist.
Leonard, you got to answer for that one,
It was on the
buddy.
2010 blacklist. And if you look at the writers...
You got to answer for that one.
No, because Brett, I think in 2010, when the first guy, Jeff, whatever, wrote the movie, it was pretty solid. But then when the writing credit comes up at the end of the film, it's 15 names. This thing has been in hell for 12 years. It's time.
Let's talk Ricky Stanicky. Right. We watched it so you don't have to, a.k.a. just watch the John Cena parts. But here is what I got to say about Ricky. I honestly will probably talk about Ricky Stanicky more than I will talk about all the good movies that we watch, because Ricky Stanicky is an absolute train wreck, but I have so much to say about it. Number one, the first thing you need to know about Ricky Stanicky, available now is it on Amazon?
You know what it's on, honey. It's Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Okay, this is an Amazon
Get your
Prime
Primes
streamer.
out.
It's not. It's one of the biggest movies that came out in the last 2 weeks, but it's not going to show up on the box office because it only came out on streaming. Ricky Stanicky is 2 movies. There is the movie where John Cena is absent, and then there is the movie where John Cena is present. And the first movie where John Cena is absent sucks beyond comprehension. You can't even believe they made it. The second one, when John Cena is present, is watchable and enjoyable solely by the force of John Cena's presence. I did not know that they made movies like this anymore, to be honest. This is, and I guess, Peter Farrelly directed it, so I guess Peter Farrelly gets to still make movies like this. We watched She's Out of My League for Weekend at Bergman's, and remember we like when we were watching it, we were like, oh boy, 2010 was a century ago. The times have changed so much. They haven't at all. They're still making She's Out of My League, and it's called Ricky Stanicky. But at least in She's Out of My League, the douchebags were blue collar. We don't even get the virtue of the working class in this movie. Instead, now the douchebags are all white collar. Yeah. Somehow they're the worst guys in the world, but we're still supposed to root for them. They're just pathological liars and sociopaths, but we're supposed to believe that they're just a little naughty, and we ultimately are supposed to be on their side. The climax of the movie, really quickly, I don't give a shit. We're going to spoil the movie. The climax of the movie is a fucking bank merger. Like the big sort of event that all the events are sort of working towards, and everything, all the plot points are going to resolve themselves in. The big sort of Act 3 climax is a fucking bank merger. And we're supposed to be going, yes, they merged the banks, and all the guys reunited with their wives that they've been lying to in various ways. This movie is dreadful. We'll get to Cena
for
in a
the
second.
Folks at home. Let me tell you what this movie is about.
Please.
Every single thing Brett said is true, but I also need to. I need to go back to what this movie is about and to communicate to you the dreadfulness. This movie is about three friends who, when they're very little, they pull a prank. They're about to get in trouble, so they make up a guy named Ricky Stanicky, who's their fake friend, who they blame it on, and they don't get any of the blame. Cut to 20 years later. They've been using this gambit the entire time. Everybody in their life, their partners, their wives, their pregnant wives, know, Ricky Stanicky, yeah. Oh, he had this and he had that. And the guys, the first thing they do is Andrew Santino and Zac Efron and Jermaine Fowler. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Okay. They skip Andrew Santino's baby shower the day of, because they plant a fake phone call where they get a call from, quote, Ricky Stanicky, and then honey, Ricky's really sick. We got to go take care of him. And they all get on a plane and they go to They all go to Atlantic City and they get drunk. And Andrew Santino misses the birth of his child. And now all of a sudden the Ricky Stanicky questions start adding up. So what do? They hire this crazy guy they met in Atlantic City, played by John Cena, who does this act. He does this cabaret act.
The only bright spot in the movie, John Cena.
Called what? Hard on Rod? What is it called?
Rock Hard Rod.
He's Rock Hard Rod. He does these erotic cabaret, and John Cena does all the characters.
He does Weird Al songs about jacking off. On paper, it should not work. Somebody should have tried harder when they were writing, but John Cena commits to it 110 fucking %. Yes. And it is honestly one of the best comedic set pieces I've seen in a long time, solely because of Cena's performance.
You cannot help but laugh.
And it's not just funny. And the reason it works, Cena knows something. Cena knows like 3 or 4 things that only the best performers know. And one of those things he knows almost instinctively is that the funniest thing ever is not trying to be funny, but trying to be dramatic in a comedic context. He knows that so well. And so he doesn't play this scene for laughs. He plays it for desperation. He gives you the character. This
Rock Hard Rod.
Rock Hard Rod is on their is someone who desperately wants to be famous, wants to be a performer, wants to be an actor, but is on the last ditch fringes of their life in Atlantic City. And there's a part, not only is the performance of Rock Hard Rod hilarious, the moment when he comes off stage and the stage manager says great, good show, Rod, and then he, out of breath from the performance, goes, good crowd, and then takes a swig of vodka, and there's so much pathos in his body and his face is amazing because the crowd was not a good crowd. They were all passed out.
No one's watching Rock Hard Rod.
Cena is killing in this movie. Meanwhile, the rest of the performances, like Joe is saying, are dreadful. I'm sorry.
Dreadful. No, please. No,
Andrew
please.
Santino is a shit stain on our culture, an absolute talentless hack who's got in this movie presumably because his team convinced the producers that he has a huge podcast audience, and they will all come and watch the movie.
They probably did.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure it all worked out and everybody got paid.
We're talking
but that
about
doesn't mean that this guy has any talent.
No,
he simply lucked his way into a big podcast audience, and now he can bribe his way into movies because of it. But don't get it twisted. This guy has no talent. He is not a comedian. The scenes in which he has to riff like he's in a Judd Apatow or Adam McKay movie are absolutely painful. And the thought that this movie has an outtakes reel with alts on all the riffing makes me want to die. Andrew Santino is a hack. Retire, bitch.
Another notable part of Ricky, I just need to mention it because I'll go to bed tonight and I'll be like, how could I not have mentioned this? Just imagine this. So anyway, they hire John Cena, and he comes and he plays Ricky Stanicky, and he tries to trick all their families that Ricky Stanicky's real, and for a while it goes well until it goes south, right? But then at the end, some bullshit, and then everybody merges the banks. But real quick, just one scene that has to be reported upon. I just want you to know there's a moment in this film where Andrew Santino's a son, it's his bris, and that's when everyone's going to meet Ricky Stanicky, is at this like fancy Providence, Rhode Island bris. Ricky comes, he's wearing a safari hat.
He's wearing a full khaki suit and safari hat.
He charms everybody, it's great. But they're
Cena
like,
rules.
They're like, we have to, okay, then somebody else comes in who might know Ricky Stanicky, and they're like, we have to roofie this guy, or else he's going to learn that John Cena's here.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
So and then they've set up a game where, okay, we're going to he'll come by and he'll see us playing this game where we're throwing stuff into each other's mouths. He'll want to play, and somebody throw a roofie. It's not a roofie. It's something else, whatever. It's a roofie-esque sort of thing, or a LSD or whatever, into his mouth. And there comes the guy they're trying to poison with the roofie, and then they throw the roofie in his mouth. And then who slow motion jumps in front?
The Roastmaster
the
General.
Roastmaster General himself, Jeff Ross.
As the rabbi.
Then Jeff Ross, in 2024, performs High as a Kite. Oh, he's on a K-hole. That's what it was. It was ketamine.
It's ketamine.
High as a kite on ketamine. He is about to perform this bris, and then instead Ricky Stanicky has to step up and get it done, and Cena performs the bris, and everyone is happy and safe. Brett, this 10-minute stretch of the movie, I think it set us back.
It's confusing.
50 years.
It's confusing in its
not because it was
absolute
bad.
incompetence.
It was unfunny. It was
unfunny and
insane.
incompetent. The specifics in this movie are terrible. That's why I can't believe it made the blacklist, because like look, it's like 5-6 comedic set pieces, throughout the movie. You got to choose a specific thing and go for it and do a big slapsticky sort of comedic routine. Each one, the specifics are so bizarre and and just so poorly executed. As a side note, one of those specifics, I want to say directly to the makers of this movie, skin-to-skin contact after your child is born is not like a weird hippie thing. It's literally like recommended mainstream medical science. It's what the doctor tells you to do after your child is born.
Andrew Santino wants to go skin to skin, and all of his boys make fun of him. Yeah.
In this movie, Andrew Santino is like the hippie dad, which is such a weird casting for him. And he's like telling everybody we have to do skin-to-skin contact after the baby's born. They're like, oh, you crazy hippie, nobody does that. And it's like, everybody does that. It's what you're supposed to do so anyway, the specifics are bizarre. No one that made this movie seems like they're alive in the present day. It seems like they're in some weird formaldehyde jar and they haven't been out into the culture for 20 years. This movie sucks, except for Cena,
right?
Because he crushes in bad movies. Right.
But
time to give him a good movie, Hollywood.
Cena's a young man. That's right. That's what I was gonna say. Okay, folks, Cena, bankable, up and down, 4-quadrant star. Why are we why this movie costs $50 million? Do you know that? The budget on this movie, which looks like it was shot on my phone, in a backlot, one single set, was $50 million.
Great job, everyone. Great job.
Just dumped on streaming. Zac Efron is in this movie. He's garbage.
I have a message for Zac Efron, as you know.
We're fans. He stinks. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is Cena's a bankable star. Let's put comedies in the movie theater, and let's have good up-and-coming or established, just good directors make the comedies, and let's go ahead and let good screenwriters write the good script and not have 15 people over 15 years make a movie. Peter Farrelly drags to the finish line because he wants to get out of the house or whatever. We need real comedies, and Cena might help be one of those guys.
Give Cena good scripts. He's ready to go. He's done his work. He's done the hours. He is tested. He is proven. He is ready for some good big comedies. And right on cue, you know what? I was looking at his IMDb today. He is headlining the new Paul Feig action comedy. Speaking of the
There you go.
Speaking of the Melissa McCarthy parallel,
good job.
He's going to be in the next big Paul Feig. He's going to be in Spy, basically. So
that's perfect for him.
Big hopes for that.
God,
I hope
Paul's lucky as hell, isn't he?
Yes, Paul lucked out. And I cannot wait. It's called Grand Death Lotto. Let's do it.
For Christmas, my sister-in-law gave me Paul Feig's cocktail book, and she said, when I saw this, I really thought you'd like it.
I would like to talk directly to Zac Efron if I can. If I can get on this camera right here, I want to talk straight to Zac Efron. Zac, I watched Iron Claw and Ricky Stanicky within the span of about 2 weeks. I've been thinking a lot about you, Zac. I know you don't know who I am, and that's fine. But I've been thinking a lot about you, and I have a message for you because I think I know what's going on. Zac, you're not a comedian, but you are potentially a great tragedian. I know that you want to joke around with the boys. I know that your dream is to be part of like an Apatow crew, and you're riffing and you're doing alts, and the director's shouting out jokes from the back, and you've got outtake reels as long as your freaking biceps. But that's not who you are, my man. You are not a comedian. You are a tragedian. Your face and your body and the way you're growing into your body, it is like an ancient scroll etched with some unutterable, indecipherable sadness. You made me cry in Iron Claw, my man. I kid you not. You made me cry. And not even the sad scenes. Just the scenes where you were practicing your wrestling moves. Because that's how deeply embedded tragedy is in your body and your face and your performance, okay? You are great at tragedy. You suck at comedy. And that's fine. If anything, that's a gift, baby. That's an extra 30 years on your career right there. I want to see you in fucking auteur sad films. I want you to make me cry. I want you to make it bleak, baby. I want you to get sad with it, all right? I want sad Efron for the next 30 years, okay? You don't make me laugh, but you do make me want to give you a hug, and that is something special, my man, okay? No more comedies. It's not working. It's weird. Tragedies. Get sad with it. Give me sad. Give me downfall. Give me existential crisis. Do not give me riffing with the boys, okay? Do not give me scenes at the bar where you're taking shots and doing jokes. It's not working. But Iron Claw, holy shit, my man. I said it on the Oscar special, but when you threw that sheet off and your biceps are so juiced up and ripped and you're groaning from the pain of being that strong and trying to get out of bed, and then you do the Book of Job for the next hour and a half, Muscle Man Book of Job, you found it, okay? Iron Claw is your aesthetic, not Ricky Stanicky. I don't want to see any more Ricky Stanickys, Zac. I want to see more Iron Claws.
Margaret, let's see that box office.
That should be Zac Efron's agent. Zac, you're so funny in Stanicky.
Zac was not funny in Stanicky.
Zac, you were so funny in Stanicky.
I love Zac. I only want the best for Zac.
This is in Zac's... I want the best for Zac.
I can tell. I just want to affirm. Here, folks, here they are.
What we're not going to see on here is Ricky Stanicky because we're
looking at the box office
streaming
now.
only. So the top two held firm this week, Kung Fu Panda and Dune. Dude, Universal is on a fucking tear right now.
Wow.
Universal had the biggest year of any studio last year. The first studio to eclipse Disney and Marvel in 10 years, and they are not slowing down. They are on a tear.
They're out for blood, Brett.
They're out. I love it. Our next door neighbors. Let's do it, baby.
The new one at number 3 is the Mark Wahlberg heartwarmer, Arthur the King, about a dog that helps him run a marathon. So that's exciting to see that there.
Mark, I saw your PSAs about like helping dogs. I could not agree with the message more, and it still ain't doing nothing for your reputation, baby. Because it's the kind of PSA where he does the dog one, and then he's like, okay, next, and then he does like a crypto ad. You know, it's like he like knocked out like 3 in a row.
Do you follow him on Instagram? He's always doing like the prayers.
Oh, the Hallow
Pray
app.
Up. Oh yeah, he did do the Hallow app. During the Super Bowl, my mom texted me, or after the Super Bowl, the link to the Hallow app and says, "Did you see this ad?"
Now, the first new, sorry, one more time. Yeah, thank you, Margot. The other new addition here at number 6. I guess not completely new because they had like a limited release thing, but coming in at number 6, Love Lies Bleeding. Love Lies Bleeding, the new A24 movie with Kristen Stewart that both of us saw over the last week.
Everyone's seeing Love Lies Bleeding.
Love Lies Bleeding, people. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. What a movie.
Rose Glass's second feature film, Love Lies Bleeding, stars Kristen Stewart, and the first film, I believe, or first major role for Katie O'Brien.
Katie O'Brien. Hello.
Yeah,
welcome to the stage, Katie O'Brien.
Katie O'Brien in a second. This is a film where Kristen Stewart has this boring life where it's all going to be a waste anyway. She works at the bowling alley and she smokes and she's sad when this ethereal, gorgeous, strong woman comes into her life. Oh, she doesn't work at a bowling alley. She works at a gym. Sorry, the whole freaking movie's about bodybuilding. Works at a gym.
Is important to note though that this is the kind of town. This is the kind of town where the gym feels like a bowling alley. So you're not wrong.
I appreciate that
because I literally didn't blink. I was like, "Yep, she works at a bowling alley."
It's a gym that like reminds you of a bowling alley. She works at a bowling alley gym, and this beautiful ethereal vagabond wanderer appears in her life. They weirdly fall in love. They start taking steroids together.
Only weirdly because it's sudden and surreal the way it's presented.
Oh, it's not weird that these two people might fall in love. I'll get to the love story later, but they fall in love. But their sordid pasts catch up with them, and they commit crimes. They commit murder, and they commit a bunch of things. And Katie O'Brien, the bodybuilder, dating Kristen Stewart, gets really into steroids and suffers terrible roid rage and murders people. So I mean, look, hey, a lot of good folks at home are probably saying, I got to see this Love Lies Bleeding.
You have to see Love Lies Bleeding.
What did you think of Love Lies Bleeding?
All right, I want to take a step back because that was an excellent synopsis. Everyone's caught up on the basic premise of Love Lies Bleeding. It's also a movie you have to see to believe. You know, the premise doesn't, because it's a movie with a very strong aesthetic and a style and an incredible score and color scheme and lighting. So it's a movie that sort of transcends its log line. But I want to go back a step because this is when we were talking earlier about scaling the mountain last night to go to AMC on City Walk. I went to see Love Lies Bleeding. I had such a transcendent, euphoric experience at the movies last night like I haven't had in a freaking decade.
Whoa.
The movies are back, people, and let me tell you why they're back. And I'm not saying they're all going to be good, but they are back because people are taking big swings on original IP. Just watching the trailers for Love Lies Bleeding, I was so turned up. I haven't felt like this since the damn 1999, which we're reviewing on Bergman.
See there.
Here's the trailers I saw, one after another. And again, I don't know if any of these, I don't know which movies are going to be good, bad, but we're talking about
vibing.
Big swings. Cinema, the feeling of cinema. Not the feeling, like the last 10 years when you would go and watch trailers and
this is true.
You had this feeling of just this sort of corporate hegemony just crushing your spirit, where everything is a fucking sequel of a franchise
Didn't you wish
movie,
I came with you so you could lean over and go like,
yes,
hey man,
yes,
that looks really good.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Remember that? Remember when you'd watch trailers and you'd be like, oh, I'm going to watch that.
Oh, let's go see that. Let's go see that.
Alex Garland's Civil War. By the light of the TV glow. What is it? The new Jane Schoenbrunn.
Yep. Looks
that
great.
Trailer looks insane. And this is a franchise movie, but the new Omen trailer looks incredible. Have you heard of Sasquatch Summer?
Yes.
All right, that trailer looks wild. Dev Patel's Monkey Man, could not be more excited.
Can't wait.
Dev Patel's directing himself and John Wick in India. Cannot wait for Monkey
looks
Man.
Great.
And the big thing is like I said, big swings, mostly original IP, exciting, weird auteur visions. We haven't seen this in this widely and broadly and emphatically in the cinema in a long time. And the other thing is that I realized last night, movies are remembering what they do. Movies are recentering around their central essence, which is that cinema projects fantasy. It projects desire. It is not about, trying to be sort of like right, or trying to be like, only being about money. Cinema is about desire and fantasy, and it is about big swings and risks. And cinema in that sense is back in a big way, because that was all over the screen last night at the AMC, in the trailers and in the movie Love Lies Bleeding.
The angels, they're clapping in heaven.
They are clapping in heaven right now. The movies are back, people.
Yeah.
Love Lies Bleeding is an excellent example of this, because I found that I thought the performances were a little uneven. The third act has kind of a rough stretch where the movie almost completely falls apart. But even with that, like, it's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it is a bold movie. It is a movie that is strong and vivid in its aesthetic. It has an incredible score. It has a vision, and it has some really committed, interesting performances. And so this is the kind of cinema I love to live in and live through, where it isn't like you're not worried about, like, not everything has to be perfect, but you're living in an age of big swings and bold aesthetics, and that is fucking exciting.
I couldn't agree more, and I want to talk about the director of this film, Rose Glass. So because of what Brett's saying, because the themes Rose plays with, her aesthetic, her style, her panache, her vibrancy, her ballsiness, I'm thinking that I can't miss one of her films until she drops the ball. I loved Saint Maud, which was her first film. It's a horror movie about a young woman who takes care of the sick that sort of has this exorcisty sort of love interest in this dying woman who she tries to save her soul via finding Christ. And that movie is scary and wonderful and has interesting parallels to the sort of, let's call it a sophomore slump, but it's one of those sophomore slumps that's so stylish you'd go see it at midnight with your friends in 10 years. It's wonderful. Love Lies Bleeding. Saint Maud, I think, is probably like a slept on, going to be classic one day.
It's a tight little indie horror.
It is incredible.
Potential classic, yeah.
Some of the parallels, besides her queerness, which is so expertly communicated. I'm obsessed with her queerness. I love what she's obsessed with sexually, and what she's obsessed with stylistically. But she has this really great filmmaking sense as well. And one of my favorite things Rose does, whether it's the horror of Saint Maud, or it's the sort of tension building moments of Love Lies Bleeding, is she uses supernatural elements or moments of fantasy like little drops in her movies, but they pack a punch of 1,000 punches.
Absolutely.
They are amazing. When they shoot Katie O'Brien up with steroids, you hear in this sort of body horror-esque, Hulk-esque fashion, her bones and muscles expanding, crunching as she hulks up. And it happens in such a tight flash of sound and imagery. It's so intense. And this is what she does. She is so delicate with where she places her horror moments or her fantasy moments or supernaturalism. But when she puts it there, she commits to it with 1,000% sort of assuredness. It really, really works. And also, Rose, I love whatever you're doing at the end of your movies. In Saint Maud, we had Maud, God gives her wings. And she has these big angel wings, glowing wings that are real.
But then the reality is paired with the fantasy too, which is a key part of it. You always get the reality paired with the fantasy.
And then in Love Lies Bleeding, it reminded me of when Katie O'Brien comes to, we didn't even mention Ed Harris yet, who plays Kristen Stewart's father.
Ed Harris is back.
Katie O'Brien comes back to take the bad dad down, and she appears as a giant. There have been moments of, like I'm saying, these flashes of supernaturalism throughout the movie, but it manifests in these beautiful ways. You know, like at the end of an August Wilson play, where it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then the very last thing is like, it's a ghost. It's really a ghost. You're like, oh wow, it's really a ghost at the end of the piano.
I tried to condense this movie to like a log line because it's doing so many things. It's so gorgeous. And I came up with Roid Rage as lesbian revenge fantasy was my quick log line, which I feel like kind of sums it up if you're trying to understand what this movie is about. It has such a like committed, dynamic queer aesthetic that makes you. That makes my first thought was like, wait, Bound was like 1995, right? I was like, why? Like, between Bound and Love Lies Bleeding, why haven't we had a fucking 100 movies like this? They like it has such like a, speaking of like cinema being the projection of desire and fantasy, this movie reminded me of something that is obvious and we all know, but this movie reminds you of it so powerfully that like we all win when there is no limits on what kind of fantasies and desires are being projected. When cinema gets liberated from the male gaze and from strictly sort of like hetero fantasies and hetero desires, we all win because these movies are so. This movie is dynamic, it has conviction, the sexuality and the desire is so fresh and so authentic, and I think part of that is because this is a director who is like angry that more movies are not like this. You know, it's that outburst of like, there should be more of this. There should be more movies like this. And that outburst of that kind of energy is so exciting to watch. And I was getting some Bound flashbacks, particularly like in the sex scenes, the romantic scenes. And we need more Love Lies Bleeding. We need more Bound. We need more of this in cinema. This movie, for its like little hiccups here and there, overall, this movie fucking rules, and we should get more Love Lies Bleeding in the cinema.
Also, just to say it, you know, the hottest thing in the world is just apparently it's just Kristen Stewart smoking a cigarette. Like I could watch that until the cows come home.
I have a couple like that. I have Kristen Stewart smoking,
My God.
doing steroids in the butt. Is amazing.
Lord have mercy.
The dude who deals the steroids deals them out of a fanny pack in the gym, which I loved. Katie O'Brien works at a bar at a shooting range in Texas, which is an amazing. Like all the like talk about as bad as the specifics were in Ricky Stanicky, all the specifics in Love Lies Bleeding are perfect.
Ed Harris is a bug guy.
Ed Harris
at one point
he
eats a bug out of anger. Sorry, Brett, I had to steal that one from you.
No,
Ed
like
Harris
the
plays
Mummy and the Mummy, as we'll see later.
He does the thing in
does
the
the
mummy. He eats a bug because he's so mad. It's great.
There is the rejoice everyone because fingering finally has its like masterpiece scene. Like there's never been like every sex act has its like one masterpiece scene, and now I think this is this movie has the ultimate fingering scene. Yeah. It is. So now fingering has its masterpiece scene thanks to Love Lies Bleeding. Dave Franco, LOL.
Dave Franco has a crazy mullet in this. It's worth mentioning the mullet. An insane mullet.
Dave Franco got to be in Spring Breakers. He got his Spring Breakers for like 10 minutes, and then there is a moment though. We're getting a little spoilery, which we should be careful about.
Well,
but like,
okay,
it's a new movie though, so let's be like. But like, I will say there is a moment where like, you know, Dave Franco is like not just gonna go down, but it's gonna go down hard, and you start counting. Start counting the minutes until it happens, and when it happens, it happens. He goes down hard.
Well, spoiler alert.
Look, spoilers, but like this movie is about the experience. This is one of those movies that is about the experience of experiencing it. So it is not like you can't spoil this movie because I can't communicate to you what is good about it. Yeah, I can just tell you. I can tell you the plot, but you have to see the colors and you have to feel the music and feel the heat of these of the bodies in this movie to really understand.
I'll put it this way.
Yes,
Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien have sex in this movie. So you know you take it from there, folks. Do you think that that's something you'd like to see or not or whatever? We suggest you go check it out. Very sexy. Rose Glass. Oh my god.
You're doing it, Rose. So you're doing it.
Oh, like the old gymnast. You know what's really hot? Like blowing cigarette smoke through your nose. An old gym, like boxing shorts.
The movies are back. The movies are back.
Strong ladies.
The movies are back.
Muscles.
And I'll say it for the 100th time. Because they know that they are back to doing what they do well, desire, fantasy, and also because like the movies were never, you're not supposed to live like the movies. And you know, there was that point where the movies and our lives like settled into this weird parallel where the movies were trying to tell us how to live and we were trying to live like that's not what movies are about, okay? Movies are about fantasy and desire and about the way we can't live in real life, all right? And this movie understands that. This movie is fucking gutsy, and again, for its little hiccups here and there, I freaking loved it, and I can't wait to see more from this director.
Ding. My note is that like sometimes it strives. I couldn't tell are you striving for melodrama or drama? And then it just sort of relies on the camp element to sort of save whatever your feelings are about that. I think the truth of the matter is that the love story between the two didn't ultimately click. So when at the third act, when Kristen Stewart's sort of defending her Frankenstein, I don't know. It just seemed a little forced for me.
There was a missing element, like late act 2, early. There was something missing. There was either like a change of location that could have happened, or an additional plot point, or so. There was like a missing engine in the plot.
There's something
that
missing.
They had to sort of ride over, and it got sort of messy for a second. But then I thought like the final 10-15 minutes they landed the plane.
Well, I love the bodybuilding contest.
I agree.
That part was awesome. I think it's about their relationship started to become silly.
It needed something
but it
else.
should have leaned in more. I couldn't tell. And then I guess maybe Rose Glass was sitting here. She'd be like, you can't tell if it was silly. At the end, she turns into a giant and smushes at her. So maybe it is going for melodrama. Didn't 100% get there for me. A lot of tittering in my theater. Everyone liked the film, but people were sort of rolling their eyes by the end. And this was a home crowd, the movie theater I saw it with. So, mixed bag. Love the movie.
This is what I like about it, though, is it's a movie that I'm talking about passionately and I'm in favor of, and I can totally see people not liking it. And that's what's exciting about it, is I can see I can totally get people not liking it, and I could totally I could listen to and understand like a criticism of the movie, but that's why it's a fucking good movie. If you told me you liked Ricky Stanicky, I would walk you off the pier. I would push you into the ocean.
You'd be like an 11-year-old boy.
Yes, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with your brain? But this movie's exciting because it can entertain multiple takes, multiple opinions, and overall it's good for movies. Joe, I was looking at your Letterboxd, and you got down to business last night. Really bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
Last night you hit one out of the park because you watched a movie that I've been circling for a long time and haven't seen yet, which is John Frankenheimer's Seconds.
Yeah.
What do you think of John Frankenheimer's Seconds?
Folks, I finally walked Seconds. We all walk past it in the store. We all scroll past it on Criterion. And, everyone that's ever seen it tells you you're crazy. You gotta. They are right. Folks, 5 stars. This movie, John Frankenheimer's Seconds, is absolutely incredible. If you like movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or The Skin I Live In, this is going to be the movie for you. In this movie, a middle-aged man hits his midlife crisis and nothing's making him happy. So he goes to something called The Company, and The Company will give you they'll kill you off effectively and give you a new face and a new body and a new identity, and you can start your life anew. They give you a little job. They give you a house. New life. And so this gentleman is at the end of his rope, and he goes to The Company, and he comes out Rock Hudson. And Rock Hudson lives his life as Rock Hudson. And spoiler alert for a 50-year-old movie, at the end, he realizes whether you look like Rock Hudson or you look like the other guy, this guy's a dumb asshole. You can't be happy if you're a dumb asshole.
I can't wait to watch that. I'm watching Seconds tonight.
This movie is so beautifully shot. Until Cassavetes, I guess in 68, makes Faces. I know he had made Shadows earlier. This is, the filmmaking here is exceptional. The cinematography is extraordinary. It's sort of a blend between Steadicam and handheld, but it
has that claustrophobia.
It has that float, and it opens in Grand Central Station, and it's floating through there, and the way that the camera floats right behind your head, and all of Yorgos Lanthimos would die and go to heaven if a movie could look this good with so much crazy camera work. But Frankenheimer is, not like Yorgos. He's a real one. So I can't recommend it enough. Jimmy Wong Howe did the cinematography. I'll never get over it. There's a Dionysius, and it's sort of a Beau is Afraid-y, Brett.
Really?
It's a surrealist dream that he sort of travels through. It's not really finite plot points. It's like a one of those float through a dream movies, but done to horrifying effect. It is scary. It is funny. It is sad. And Rock Hudson gives an earth-shatteringly good performance. This is sort of his being John Malkovich. Amazing movie, folks. Check it out. Brett, what'd you watch this week on Letterboxd?
Well, the great thing about the movies is that it's always humbling because there's so many movies. You can never claim any level of true, Like the moment you claim to be a connoisseur or sort of I've seen them all, I know them all, then you come upon a blind spot. You find exactly.
Like, oh, fuck,
you find a movie that you haven't seen and it changes your whole thing, and you're like, man, I don't know anything.
Right.
And the classic example of that is I've always been a huge Palin Pressburger fan. I've love. I've watched and rewatched I Know Where I'm Going, A Canterbury Tale, Colonel Blimp, Red Shoes, Black Narcissus. I've seen these movies over and over. I love them. I thought I was like almost like bordering on a Palin Pressburger scholar. I had never seen A Matter of Life and Death, and I was always like, but I've seen so many. I'll get around to A Matter of Life and Death at some point. It was kind of like hard to get a hold of at a point. But I finally watched A Matter of Life and Death, and holy God, this whole time I've been claiming to be a Palin Pressburger fan, and I hadn't watched the Palin Pressburger movie. This movie is the centerpiece of their entire filmography because it combines it's the first movie they did with cinematographer Jack Cardiff, who kind of came into their world. Really, it should be Palin Pressburger and Cardiff, we should say, for the latter half of their career, because he came in, and Cardiff is responsible for the look of the later movies. If you've seen The Red Shoes and Black Narcissus and A Matter of Life and Death, you know what I'm talking about. This grand scale Technicolor, the most beautiful Technicolor you've ever seen, combined with this sort of surreal theatrical staging that blends the lines between reality and fantasy. It's a style that has really never been matched or duplicated. I kind of have no idea how they did it. It's shocking. They'll take a soundstage.
One of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
It's like Stanicky, New York. Like they take a soundstage and turn it into like a limitless canvas somehow. But it combines, Matter of Life and Death combines, in Red Shoes and Black Narcissus, as much as I love the look of them and the vibe of them in those movies, they lose the kind of like British wit of the earlier movies. I Know Where I'm Going and A Canterbury Tale and Colonel Blimp in particular. And then I discovered the missing link, baby. A Matter of Life and Death is that middle movie that combines the best parts of Palin Pressburger. You get the Jack Cardiff Technicolor cinematography, and you get the British wit of I Know Where I'm Going, Canterbury Tale, etc. It is the centerpiece movie. It is the missing link that turns the whole filmography and connects it all. I was obsessed with this movie. It has one of the most romantic, incredible openings of any movie I've ever seen, where David Niven is a pilot during World War II he is about to die. He's on a plane, but his parachute is ripped, and the plane is burning up and going down, and all of his crew are dead, or the ones that had parachutes have left, and he sacrificed himself and said, it's okay, go, I'll stay behind. And he's about to die, and he is communicating with Kim Hunter, who is Stella from Streetcar Named Desire, the filmed version. He's talking to Kim Hunter over radio. They've never met before, but because of the intensity of the situation, she's talking to someone who's about to die, but he has such a sort of, this just wit and like just fucking he's dying. He is nobody has ever died better than David Niven is about to die. He's quoting Andrew Marvell. He's like he's reckless, he's cavalier. Wow. He's going out on top, and Kim Hunter falls in love, and he falls in love with her, and they fall in love over radio. Credibly fall in love over radio, not seeing each other in this moment of David Niven's impending death. This is where the fantasy comes in. He does not die because the angel that was supposed to sort of usher him to the afterlife lost him in the fog, and so he fell into the ocean and survived. And then because he has fallen in love, he is able to appeal to heaven for more life, because they show up and they're like, okay, we missed you yesterday, but you're supposed to die, so you got to go die now. You got to come to the afterlife. And he's like, but I've fallen in love, and so they give him an opportunity to appeal his case. The movie's incredible. It goes through all these twists and turns. It's so beautiful and weird, which is what's great about Palin Pressburger. Beautiful and weird and funny at the same time. The third act is kind of bizarre. I was telling you this yesterday. It devolves like a lot of movies of that war and post-war period. It's like very specific to the wartime sort of culture and politics. Much like Alfred Hitchcock's Saboteur, which is an incredible, bizarre movie, but it's like it's hard to watch now because it's so much of it is like specific to the war period, World War II. This movie has an ending like that gets very sort of specific and timely for a movie that has been about life and death and love and existence. So the third act is kind of weird, but But what's bad about being weird? Like, weird is still fun. So it's like, it's beautiful and perfect for 2/3 and then weird for 1/3. So there's your present, everybody. You get a movie that has everything in it. A Matter of Life and Death. I highly recommend it.
Brett, I got to ask, how many stars we giving this thing?
Out of what? 5?
It's Letterboxd, out of 5.
Oh, I gave it 4.5.
4.5. Wow. Okay, great. Okay,
I was like, oh, this is 5 stars all the way, and then that third act is just so like weird.
4.5 is nothing to sneeze
the
at.
Third act, basically, the third act devolves into like this roast battle between like the Brits and the Yanks. It's very weird, but 4.5. 4.5.
Okay,
4.5. Yeah.
I love it.
So that brings us to the end of this episode of Movies Baby. Make sure you follow us on all the socials at Movies Baby with 5 Ys. Never 4, never 6, always 5. Movies Baby with 5 Ys. There it is. And please, if you're not already, sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. We're going for best Patreon ever. I'm just going to say it. We have so much stuff on here.
It's been 1 week, but I think we're in the lead.
You are getting full video and audio ad-free of Movies Baby and Weekend at Bergman's, our 2 podcasts. You are getting I give you a movie scene from our VHS collection every Saturday. I'm giving you trivia on Tuesdays. We're giving you Frame It Friday, frames that belong in museums. We're going to be giving you, we already have one scheduled. We're going to be giving you bonus interviews on the Patreon, bonus content. We have to do another bonus episode before the end of this month, by the way. We'll figure out what that's going to be.
Can't wait.
We are just giving you so much. You get Watch Along Wednesday, the third Wednesday every month, which we just did last night with Wicked Stepmother, Betty Davis's last movie. Look,
Julie Klausner was on that. Check that out.
Julie Klausner was on it. Julie knows movies. Anytime Julie recommends a movie, you watch it. You watch it. Last of Sheila, John Waters. She does not F around when it comes to movies. So make sure you subscribe. It's the ultimate movie lover's experience. That's what we're trying to bring you on the Patreon and on this podcast. And what's going to happen next is we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then we're going to be back only on the Patreon with Weekend at Bergman's. Tonight we are doing The Blair Witch Project versus The Mummy. Good Lord, I have no idea what I'm going to choose. The Blair Witch Project
pick our favorite.
versus The
We got to
Mummy,
pick our favorite,
the
folks.
second in our 1999 series, which is ongoing. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, this will cut off after a little bit. And if you want to join us live for Weekend at Bergman's, sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/moviesbaby. We'll be there.
Join us.
After the break. Join us.
Let's
we're going to have a lot of
fun.
fun. We're going to get in costumes. We're going to get a
loosen
little
up.
loose. I'm going to take
Talk
a
about
hit.
the Mummy.
It'll be a lot of fun.
I think I'll take a bump.
All right. Let's wave our way off, and Margo, you can start that that little transition video whenever. Bye.
5 Ys, folks.
5 Ys.